Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how to use the line follower specifically for this project as you get your robot to navigate the maze. You know that with your maze that you've seen some tape on the floor. The bottom layer of tape is duct tape, so it's a little bit more reflective, and then the top layer of tape is the electrical tape. And so, what you want to do if you're planning on using the line follower is you want to organize your line follower. So, this little green rectangles, those are your line followers. But you want to make sure that both line followers hit the black tape. And the reason for that is so that the robot, as you program it, understands what forward is. Because it can't go forward if it doesn't know where the left and the right side of the tape is located. So that's kind of the thought process behind organizing out your line followers. And then I want to talk a little bit about how to make your robot go forward. So this right here is my robot, the part in blue, and these are my wheels, these two smaller rectangles. And then I have my line followers in green. And so, obviously, if I want my robot to go forward, I need both my right and my left motors to go in the positive direction. For turning right, so if I want the robot to make a right point turn, then I need the left wheel to continue to go forward and the right wheel to go in the reverse direction. And so that will make a point turn. So if you see my mouse right here in the middle, it will just kind of pivot on that axis to go right. And the same thought process is true for turning left, except this time I want my right wheel to continue to go forward and my left wheel to go in the opposite direction. And once again, it makes a point turn and makes the robot turn left. Okay, so now that I've talked a little bit about the thought process behind your line follower and how you make your robot turn left or right, let's take a look for a second at the code. So what I'm working on right here is just a basic pseudocode. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Oops. All right. And with my pseudocode, I need the line follower to see the silver tape. And so if it starts to see the silver tape on the right, it needs to turn left so it can correct itself. So it's starting to see right, silver tape on the right, then it needs to go left. And so here's this right line follower. As it starts to drift off to the right, it needs to be able to correct itself. And so this needs to turn left a little bit, so that the robot can continue finding that black line. The same, well, I guess the opposite is true. If the line follower starts to see the silver tape on the left side, then it needs to turn right to correct itself. So if I come back over here, this line follower here on the left, if it starts drifting off towards the silver, it needs to correct itself, and so it needs to turn right, um, to get it back on where both line followers are seeing the black tape. Okay, so that's kind of the pseudocode behind making the line followers work. And then here I have the actual code that I used. There's multiple different ways of doing this, but this is how I wrote out my code. You'll notice that right here I have these four X's. This is dependent upon what your line follower is reading. So you'll have to use the debugger window to figure out what is this value whenever the sensor sees the silver tape. So you'll have to plug that in here. So if it sees the silver tape, whatever value that is, then it's going to correct itself. Same thing for this. So if the left line follower sees the silver tape, then it needs to turn right to correct itself. But once again, this value is dependent upon what your line follower sees as silver, because it's going to be a numeric value. And I can't just put that on there, because you're going to have to figure that out. It's based off of how much light's in the room, etc. And then finally, we need to know what forward is. So if the line follower, and this is registering black, so if the left line follower registers black and the right line follower registers it as black, then it just needs to go forward. Okay. Now notice that my speeds are slow. your robot using the line follower is not going to be able to keep up if your motors are going too fast. You want to make sure that you're going low and slow, because otherwise it will just blow past the line follower or blow past the line, and it won't be able to register it anymore. So hopefully this is a little bit helpful on how to program out the line follower if you choose to use it for this project.